turn it around to the reverse side, where you see the two great seals of the United States of America.
Yep.
Okay? Now, if you notice, it says those are supposed to be the two great seals of the United States of America, correct?
Yep.
Those aren't. Those are the two seals of the Order of the Illuminati. Now, I have all this memorized from my days in the Illuminati.
Now, this went on the dollar bill in 1935, but this reflects ancient beliefs of secret societies that go back literally before the birth of Christ. It symbolizes the ancient goal of secret societies of the establishment of what in Scripture we see in Revelation 13 as the reign of the beast and the false prophet.
History of the Great Seal is a very fascinating story.
I got one right here.
The Great Seal of the United States, or is it the Great Seal of the Illuminati? There's a lot more than meets the eye.
FOJCRadio, David and Donna Carrico, the dynamic duo of followers of Jesus Christ. Nah, we're just regular people. We're just loving and serving the Lord, and we challenge you to love and serve the Lord and learn all that you can about Him. We're preaching the gospel of the kingdom and teaching the doctrine of Christ to the whole world. And thanks again for listening to our programs, and blessings to all of you.
It's time to shake and wake up the world with the best biblical talk shows from all over the world gathered in one place. ShakeandWakeRadio.com, where the truth is all that matters, and the truth will set you free. ShakeandWakeRadio.com.
If this is true, then our country is in a lot of trouble.
We would have these trips, these special trips.
But he said my daddy takes the bodies to the grocery store and he grinds them up and puts it in the hamburger. And nobody ever knows it.
How can kids 6, 8, 10 years old be describing rituals that come from a book like the Book of the Dead? It's hard to get your mind around people being capable of this kind of evil.
This is Dan Bidondi. And welcome everybody to Spiritual Warfare Friday. We are live, like John Pounders likes to say. So welcome to Spiritual Warfare Friday. We got an awesome show for you tonight. Broadcasters should say, six-fingered people, remnant of the Nephilim. So what is this about? People being born with six fingers. And I know there's a medical terminology word for that too. We're going to get into that too and everything else. But everybody welcome to the broadcast. And everybody in the chat room, just tell me what city you're from or just what state, whatever the case. That's cool too. And just like to keep up with the algorithm. If you want to hit the like button and all that good stuff. So anyway, welcome to the broadcast and Six-Fingered People, Remnant of the Nephilim. Right after the show here, we got the questions and answers show. That's our Rumble channel exclusive. This way, when you call in or whatever the case, you can go in the chat room too. Sign up for Rumble if you're not in this show here. I mean, you're not limited to what you can say. You know what I mean? It's censorship free. So, pretty cool. So, anyway, because we got to respect YouTube's policies, they do give us a platform, so we do got to respect their wishes. So, anyway, next week, I think next week and week after, I might be doing a show on Bohemian Grove. I contacted some lead researchers. They've been going to the Bohemian Grove for about 12 years now, uncovering the people who go there. A lot of crazy stuff. It's out in the redwoods of California. Basically, it's where all the elite go. Politicians, presidents, dignitaries, people from the Vatican, all kinds of, royalty and all that. They go there to worship a 44-hour god, Moloch, and they do a cremation of care. I wanted to do it tonight, but because the people, they're at the Grove now, because in the month of July, for 2 weeks, all the elite go there. Top Republicans, top Democrats, whatever the case, and I think mostly Republicans for this one. But if not, we're going to have this show coming up Friday or the Friday after, The Final Commandment, Spiritual Warfare Friday. And again, this should be next Friday or the Friday after, depending on what is taking place. So I want to thank ShakingWakeRadio.com for carrying this show on an awesome, amazing audio network. And also BeforeIt'sNews.com. Check them out, guys. It's alternative media. And some moron outside is racing a motorcycle. Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank Esther Jades for sponsoring this program as well. Transform your life with natural solutions. Discover the power of holistic wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. All kinds of good stuff they got. That's helped me, through pneumonia, through all the flu I had. I got bombarded last year. I really did. And you all know that. I was out for weeks, whatever the case. I literally almost died. So, they helped me out a lot. So your prayers helped out the most. So anyway, there's their Facebook QR codes. If you want to scan that, go for it. And they're on Facebook, Esther Jades. So check them out. So let's begin here. So right off the bat, I know because I have to roll my eyes. Because of people, skeptics and all that, they're going to come right out. Dan, what are you talking about? You talk about polydactyly? Polydactyly. That's what it's, the official medical terminology. I had to play it like 15 times to memorize that. Polydactyly. So that's so-called the medical condition, which basically this is the medical industry's lame attempt to dismiss what this really comes from. So they want to say polydactyly is it's a medical term for having extra fingers or toes, digits they call it. So you might also see it referred to hyperdactyly. It's one of the most common birth defects and affects of babies' hands and feet. So they want to pass this off as like this is normal because normally we see people walking around with 6 fingers, right? Yeah. And they say people with 6 fingers are born with a condition called polydactyly, which means having extra fingers or toes. And the term comes from the Greek words poly mean many, polydactyly is a commonly conjectural hand abnormality that affects around 0.2% of the people who often runs in the family, and extra fingers and usually extra toes, whatever the case. So they want to dismiss this as some sort of just medical term, that, the thing is, when things happen, they'll throw a medical label on it. They'll come up with a medical terminology. I don't know where the heck they get the stuff from. But, words that we could barely pronounce or spell, and, whatever the case, but they'll put a medical terminology. You know what I mean? Just like when he talks about Homo sapiens and the Neanderthals. So they throw those scientific words on something that's from the past. When we talk about the Nephilim, we're going to do that on the show tonight. And people with certain bloodlines and, from, creation and all that stuff, right? So they'll throw these medical terminologies, which I think Neanderthal is a German word that I believe was the 1700s they came up with that word for it. Because it shows a different, species, which is not really a different species, but they try to cover because of the Nephilim bloodline, which relates to the show today. So they'll throw these medical, scientific terms on it to try to despiritualize the whole issue. You know what I'm saying? Then, what's the other one? Homo sapien, I think it's a Latin word, whatever the case. I think that's a 17th or 19th century word. So they just slap it on with these try to say you're either a Neanderthal or you're a Homo sapien. No, that's not what the Bible says. These terms are only hundreds of years old. That's it. Thousands of years we were called man, not even human. The word human, I think that was 18th century. Said we're human, whatever the case. Somewhere along those lines. But we were called man. God created man. That's man and woman, just saying God created man. We're not humans, we're not humanoids or whatever, Neanderthals or whatever the case. But what they do is they want to cover up the stuff that's going on from the past. Ancient history and the Bible go hand in hand. We're going to show you tonight. It's going to be awesome stuff. So before we even get going, guys, I want to do one special thing I keep forgetting to do sometime on the shows, and thank you guys for reminding me, is prayer. So to dive into a subject like this, guys, because we're going to get into deep stuff into the ancient history, the occult, and biblical perspective. So we're going to do that. So everybody wants to join me in prayer. So Yeshua Messiah Jesus, we come before you, and thank you so much for forgiving us for our sins. We ask you one more time, and I don't know how you don't get sick of it, Lord. But I ask you one more time to forgive me and all of us individually of our sins and trespasses, transgressions, or abominations that any of us may have committed today. We love you so much, and we plead your blood upon us, upon this broadcast here, to protect us all from the forces of evil. And Heavenly Father, we come before you, and like always, we ask you to give us a great comforter, the great teacher, the Holy Spirit, to write your word upon our hearts today and give us the truth and disseminate the truth and help everybody here today and protect everybody from the forces of evil and anybody who's going through any afflictions out there, no matter what's going on, guys. Any afflictions, I'm sorry, Lord. And I ask you to comfort them and heal them in your mighty name. And protect this broadcast with your guardian angels, Lord, because we know we had a cyber attack today, whatever happened today. A lot of websites going down, so we pray that you could hold this broadcast up for your purpose. In your mighty name, amen. So, prayer is number one. That's we got to do. So back to the medical terminology, then we'll dive into the subject here. And don't forget, we got the questions and answer shows coming up after the show. It's on our Rumble channel, and I just posted the links on TruthRadioShow.com as well. It's in the description. We'll give you all the links before the time goes. But I usually set it for 11, but, it depends what time we finish here. And we'll take your phone calls and all that. And I'll still look in the comments here and there. But I want to welcome everybody to the broadcast. My moderators, Harold, and I think Bill's at the gas station tonight. So thank you guys for moderating the chat. And I think Valerie probably pop in later. And Brother Woo's there, Sugar Lady, Gwen, Stacy, Lariva, what's up, sisters? Loshia, Mina, and if I miss your name, Craig, Lester, Kim, Wilford, and everybody else in there, non-typical. Thank you all for joining us. And again, if I miss your name, I apologize. But I like to get to know everybody. It's pretty cool. So again, this is what they'll do is they'll slap a medical terminology or a scientific term on something. This is ancient stuff, guys. This is nothing new. Absolutely. And not everybody has 6 fingers. I mean, unless I miscount, I still got 5 each. 5 and 5, you know what I mean? So it also applies to the toes too, but they want to dismiss this like anything, right? They want to slap this medical terminology or scientific term on it to dismiss it as something that's nothing to do with spirituality, nothing to do with the genetic bloodline that the fallen angels interfered with. You know what I mean? So we're going to do here, I mean, it's crazy, man. It really is. And that they always try to dismiss what the Bible's already told us. We don't need doctors from MIT or some scientific people from the so-called History Channel and all those quacks, right? We know the stuff already from the scriptures. And how to prove the scriptures, you ask? How do you prove the scriptures? Well, you look in the newspapers. You look in history because they're identical, right? So let's begin. We're going to begin with this here, and you need to pay attention because it's very relevant. This is Matthew 24, verses 37 through 39. So this is going to be very relevant to the show tonight. But as the days of Noah were, and you need to understand what the days of Noah were. We did a million shows on this. And I wish Brian could join us tonight. So, Brian, if you're listening, man, you want to call in, you want to chime in, whatever. I know you're busy because you hosted and also FOJCRadio, hosted and produced and everything else. So I know you're busy, but if you want to call him, because this is right up your alley, brother, and I open invitation for you to call him for this one. And so just text me, whatever the case. And and also, before we get going, I want to welcome back John Hall, and I've been so excited about this. I've been praying for John Hall and Sister Patricia, and they're back. So if you haven't noticed already, if you go to Remnant Restoration, they did the first show the other day. It was a blessing to hear their voices. So John actually contacted me about a couple of weeks ago on Twitter. You know what I mean? So been chatting with Twitter. Gave me a call. It was great to hear his voice again. And I'm praying and begging for him to come on next week. So next week or the week after, again, whenever we do this show here, because I might do that Bohemian Grove show. So, this show here, The Final Commandment, because nobody nails this down better than John Hall. So if you guys could pray, beg John, come on, Dan Bidondi show. And I know, and I don't want to pressure him either, because he just got back into this stuff, and he's like, he's still praying about it, So I kind of understand. So just don't pressure him, but beg him. Say, John, please. That'd be awesome to have him on. Me and John's already done several commandment shows, man. And it's just a great chemistry. It's just like we nail it out. The passion in John, too, man. It's like, oh, yeah. We stick it to the enemy real good. It's awesome stuff. So let's begin with here. I'm sorry, guys. Genesis 6. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. What does that mean? Before Jesus returns, it's going to be like the days of Noah again. And that's very extremely relevant to everything that's going on today. There's nothing new under the sun. If you think all this stuff is new out there, guys, you have no clue. Everything going on today is the same stuff that happened back then. As the days of Noah, the days before the flood, this stuff was going on. And for as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark. That means life was going on, things were happening, whatever the case, right? And knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also, now check this out, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And who's the Son of Man? The Son of God, the Messiah, that's Jesus Christ, Yeshua Messiah. So, very important to understand this context. As the days of Noah, so shall be before Jesus returns. And just like today and like back then, life is going on. People marry and have kids, this and the other thing. And nobody knew anything until the flood came. They were warned, but nobody knew anything until the flood came and took them all away. And it says, right, so shall be the coming of the Son of Man. So before he returns, it's going to be like that again. That's what the Bible's saying. What does that mean? Does that mean we're going to get flooded again? No, because that's what the rainbow's for, as a promise that he would never flood the earth again. However, what this means is the things that existed then, the creatures and everything else that existed then, they're coming back. They are coming back big time. So, Hang on 1 second. I forgot that verse too. 1 second. This is very important here. So this is also very relevant. I really needed to read this here. I forgot to pull this verse up. My mouse is like all sensitive. I hate when I do that, guys. I apologize. So, I'll just give you the Luke version, yeah. So, scroll down here. So, Luke 21:26. Men's hearts failing them for fear, for looking after the things that which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. So, this is also in Matthew 24. That's the one I wanted to recite, but it's the same thing. So Jesus talking about the coming before he's coming, right? Before he returns, he said that it's going to be like the days of Noah again, which is going to play a lot to the show. And also men's hearts, the things that are going to come on the earth. This is something that's going to happen in the near future. And I really believe very soon. The things that are going to come upon the earth, right, is going to make men's hearts, that's people in general. When it talks about man, it's not just indicating the male, it's just mankind, you know what I mean? So the things that are coming upon the earth, men's hearts are going to fail them from the sight of these things coming. And the powers of heaven are going to be shaken, literally. It's not figuratively and not metaphorically. And I know how the ministries are out there, the mainstream churches, they love to rip the spirituality out of the Bible, the supernatural out of the Bible, to say, oh, no, it's only metaphorically speaking. No, this is not metaphorically speaking. This is literal stuff that's going to happen. And when he says men's hearts are going to fail them for which things are coming on the earth, you have no idea. And it's going to be an overnight reality. And the thing is, the ancients knew this. We're going to show you that. The ancients knew this because they dealt with it. As the days of Noah, they dealt with what's going on. This is a big issue here. So this is something that you need to keep in mind as we go through this broadcast. Yeah. So... and here we got, right, and this is what it looks like. This is real. It's not photoshopped or anything like that. This is real stuff. Right? It's polydactyly, they call it in the medical terminology, right? So, as you can see, you got 6 fingers on each end. In a lot of cases, 6 foot toes, right? And not this, but 6 fingers, and sometimes a little nub grows, whatever the case. And it's this abnormal thing, they say, right? But could this be something more? Could this be something a little bit more out of the norm medical industry? Could it be a little bit something more? And let's go back in time, okay? Let's go check out, actually, before we do that, let's check out some famous people who were born with 6 fingers. Now, there's the x-ray. You could clearly see it's 6 fingers. You're looking at that, right? And this is real. And again, you could go actually do the research because I know there's a lot of skeptics out there. Be like, oh, this is all fake or photoshopped or whatever. No, it's not. Even the medical industry admits this. So we got that down, right? So these are 10 famous people with 6 fingers. It was Jimmy Cliff. He's a musician. He was born with 6 fingers. I just got to go over some of these people. Gemma Arterton, she's an actress, right? She's been in a lot of movies. She's got 6 fingers. I can't pronounce that guy's name. H. Roshan, a Hollywood actor. It's not a coincidence that all these people are famous too, by the way. And that's very relevant to this. Anne Boleyn, she's royalty. The wife of King Henry VIII. And Tay Diggs, he's an actor. So Antonio Six Fingers Alfonso, a baseball player. And that's real. You go check it out, right? And notice how they don't highlight that in the media, though? You won't see this in the newspapers or whatever, just highlight it. It's because the thing is, it's something they want to avoid. And when people do dive into that, why has he got 6 fingers? They'll look at it up to it's just polydactyly, don't worry about it. It's a rare medical condition. And they leave it at that because they don't want to bring attention to this. And I'll tell you why. This is Hound Dog Taylor. Looks like some blues singer, I think, whatever the case. Tyrone Rugen, fictional character. So what is a fictional character? All right, whatever. Hampton Hawes, a jazz pianist. Imagine playing a piano with 6 fingers. Garfield Sobers, a cricketer. You know, it's like golf or whatever. Golf and hockey mixed in one. So, yeah. 10 facts about extra finger genetics. So that's pretty interesting. So there's a lot of publications out there about this stuff. And there's a family here. Meet the 14-strong D. Sylvia family who all have 6 fingers and toes. So this is Metro News talk about this whole family. Every one of them have 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot. And most parents would find having an extra finger a distress deficiency, especially if their baby boy was born with the same abnormality, right? So, but the extraordinary D. Sylvia family having 6 fingers and 6 toes has not proved to be burden, and they instead turn polydactyly into their advantage. So, members of the 14-strong family of Brasilia, Brazil, all believe their extra fingers are an asset that made them better musicians and competitive goalkeepers, which I can imagine. I mean, they have an extra finger. You could probably play the piano better or guitar, whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm not a musician, but yeah. So anyway, it's a family of 14 in Brazil. Every one of them will have 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot. So is this an abnormality, or is this, imagine a goalkeeper with 6 fingers there? Yeah. So pictures of the family, yeah. It's pretty interesting, right? So, as you can see, there's publications out there, like I said, but they don't really make an issue about this. They, again, it's just it's polydactyly, whatever the case. So, now, we could go back in time and look what these things are, right? Where they come from and everything else. Then we most importantly go into the Bible. Because everything in the ancient cultures match perfectly with the Bible. So, you might be out there right now, it's like, well, I don't believe in the Bible. All right, whatever. So you don't believe in the Bible, you think it's full of it, right? You're like, oh, it's full of crap, I don't believe in it, right? Yeah, all right, no problem. But you believe in history, right? Yeah, which is kind of a contradiction because history backs up the Bible. So if you took the Bible out of the equation, I never do anyway, but if you took the Bible out of the equation here, right? All ancient cultures prove the Great Flood, all about the same time period. All of them do, right? All of them talk about the giants that roam the earth. And they call the star people or gods, whatever the case. And that Greek mythology you learn in school and college and all that, that's not mythology, guys. That's real. All you're doing is learning demonology with another name. That's it. Except for the Greeks thought the fallen angels were, we're going to get to the biblical stuff later, but they thought the fallen angels were gods. And they had children with the daughters of men. Now, today, again, we go down to the ministries. I mean, just, it irks me so bad. It really does. And I know it gets Brian. So, Brian, if you're listening, I know you're probably your blood's boiling now. We get to the Sethite people, the Sethite dairy people, right? And I know it boils the blood of David Carrico, too. Because it irritates me to no end. So you get to, no, Dan, that's impossible. Angels can't have sex. Blah, blah, blah. They were just the cursed sons of Seth. So cursed people grow 7, 8, 9, 10, 30 feet, 40 feet tall. 2 rows of teeth, 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot. Yeah, because that normally happens, right? Because, again, they rip the spirituality, the supernatural out of the Bible and just water it down. Oh, it's just metaphorically. No, it's not metaphorically. And we're going to show you all the scriptures we have to say. Proven that this is real. That the fallen angels had sex with the women on the earth that they chose, and they bore them a race of giants and men of renown, which were men of renown were like basically people with super abilities. That's where Stan Lee, the comic guy there, he created the heroes, the Hulk, Superman, and all that. These come from real life things that lived here. And Greek mythology, if you go into ancient Chinese history, Mayans, Aztecs, all that stuff, you go down they talk about these things coming down to the earth, right? And having children with these daughters, creating they call demigods. And again, these things are very real. So what I'm trying to point out is more than the genetic the issue here, like far as abnormality, right? This is more than that, because what happened, what transpired on the earth here, which we're going to get into. So there's an ancient, this is publication, Ancient Origins, as I talked about, right? And then you look on the hieroglyphics of this creature, right? 6 fingers. People go, it may be an animal. All right, so what about that? What about that handprint? What about those handprints? What about those handprints, huh? Oh, look at all the toes. Oh, look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 toes on that foot, right? Tons of hands with all 6 fingers, right? Look at that. Oh, yeah. Another one. Oh, yeah, that's really an animal, right? Yep. Yeah. Look at that. Yep. 6, 6, 6 everywhere, right? Showing these hybrid creatures with 6 fingers. And let's see more, right? And this is all ancient stuff. This is all through history. You'll find this in Egyptianology, Aztec, Mayan, Greeks, Roman. You go down the list. You'll find this stuff in the hieroglyphics there. And it's funny too, right? Because how is this a coincidence, right? When all over the world that these hieroglyphics are found. But it doesn't stop there, because I know there's people be like, oh, it's just blah, blah, blah. No, because you guys are wrong. Yeah, scientific community is wrong. Because it's not just there, right? We're seeing it in real life now, but not as bad as it was back then. So we'll talk about these different creatures, right? So these are all ancient cultures that this website highlights, and you can go to different sites. I mean, people all over the world know this still. If you go to Pakistan, right? Seriously, you go to the Middle East, the common people know this. And we could get into the Kandahar giant and all that stuff with our military ran into a giant. And it's not fake. And during the Middle East wars and all that, they were bringing containers back here with ancient remains. This is like, crazy stuff. I know a lot of people be like, oh, this is crazy stuff. This is not real. But yeah, and it's crazy, man. And now, not only you could go to ancient cultures, right, and all that stuff, you could go to the newspapers. Right? I got a book here. It's Giants on Record. Actually, John Hall recommended me this book by Jim Rivera and Hugh Newman. So if you ever want to purchase that book, guys, go for it. I think it's like cheap on eBay if you can get it, or Amazon, whatever the case. But it's always good to have the. I know people like to download books. These don't need batteries, guys. Me, David Carrico, especially David Carrico, he's got a library of books. So there's Trey Harris and Brian and John and all that. So it's nothing better than having the physical book in the hand. They can't change it. They can't do anything. It doesn't need batteries. You know what I mean? So it's amazing when you see the chart of the bodies that they found. Now, you can search the archives. Go to New York Times. If you subscribe to New York, I think they charge now, but you go to the New York Times archives, right? And what happened was all the media in this country were covering this stuff. Since their existence, some of the newspapers came out in the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s during the new era of this country, right? These newspapers were covering this stuff right here in Rhode Island, the Providence Journal, covering this stuff. We can get to some of this stuff too about human remains, right? Human remains going up to 18 feet tall that they found and more. I know it sounds ridiculous, and I debated this. I forget the guy's name, man. I don't even care to mention because he's I'll shut up. But he's been on History Channel and everything else. I was in a debate with him, right? Him and 2 other people, basically ambush I walked into, and so. I waited, right, during the debate. They're going back and forth with the evolution crap and everything else. And so I waited, right? I had a stack of newspaper printouts. I waited, let them run their mouths and everything else. Then I'm like, all right, what about this? Bang, 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 shown. And the thing is, these are not just a bone or two found. Like when they find the so-called dinosaur, they find a little fragment of a bone, then they build a giant animal around that one bone. Makes no sense, right? So these are not found like that. These are found full skeletons in caskets or in tombs and everything. All over the country, especially when we were expanding this country. In the 1800s, we were going west, go west, right? 1900s, all that. They were digging up foundations, whatever case, to make foundations to home, finding remains in caves and everything else all over the country. And it's not just limited here, it's all over the world. And they were finding these remains with, stuff that blew them away. And the newspapers took interest in it. They were taking archives of this stuff, and these things were, again, ranging up to 20 plus feet tall, if not more, from 7 feet to 20 feet, whatever the case. And a lot of these things had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. 2 rows of teeth in the skull. The skulls were massive. And what happened was, and it was sometime about the 1940s or 50s, that's for some reason all the mainstream media completely cut that off. They no longer reported on this stuff. But you still could find these in their archives. Now, if you want to go on Google today or something like that, you type in giants, you'll see these so-called fact checkers pop up. It was just people photoshopping things and making these things up and all that for fame and all that stuff. But yeah, the same publications saying this, right? Their own archives record this. Their own reporters seeing this stuff. Then you find out later on, the State Historical Society will move in, or the Smithsonian will come in, confiscate, because of authority, confiscate the remains. So when later on, when people already knew about this, we want to examine this. So we go file a FOIA request. It's a Freedom of Information Act request to go examine these things. But the agencies will tell you, somebody stole the stuff or they were lost. Oops, they got destroyed. Oops, sorry. We can't help you. They get destroyed or somebody stole them. Yeah. And you don't see the stuff ever again. And L.A. Mazzulli, we had him on the show. He has been going through this left and right. And any archaeologist out there that, has a brain, okay, they'll tell you the same thing. And when they find these things, when they discover the so-called dinosaur bones or whatever the case, they always find human skeletons, or what look like human skeletons, up to, God knows how high and big. And granted, yes, absolutely, there are people who do Photoshop these things. But the newspaper articles prove that they are real. And archaeologists find them and they're told to shut up about it. Because what happened in this country, the evolution doctrine, that's what happened. That's why they don't cover this. People say, well, why would the mainstream media want to hide this? What's the motive? Well, because it destroys the evolution doctrine. Completely eradicates it. And we've done shows on evolution, and we're going to do more on them. And so the evolution doctrine was pushed by the Jesuits. Yeah, we all know Charles Darwin and his family. They're all Masons and cultists, not a coincidence. They come up with this, and it was only a theory. Charles Darwin himself said this is, unless you can demonstrate this in the lab and observe it, it's just a theory, that's all. And he stated that himself. He never said it was fact. Charles Darwin never stated that any of that was fact. Just a theory. So it later on died off because the education system wanted nothing to do with it. So it was the Jesuits stepped in with this one. So they took Charles Dawson. He was a British paleontologist, right? Because he started dabbling into when Charles Darwin left off after Charles Darwin died. So this gentleman he's a Jesuit priest by Pierre Teilhard Chardin, I think I pronounced his name right, he was a Jesuit priest, jumps on board with this idea. So nobody's biting at this. The scientific community, they're always a joke. The education system's like, yeah, we don't want nothing to do that crap. It's stupid. So they created the Piltdown Man. They took a bunch of monkeys' jawbones, broke them off, filed them down just so they fit the human skull, buried a bunch of them, right? Then dug one up and called the press over. Oh, look what we found. And they dug the other ones up. Oh, look, there's the missing link to prove that we evolved from the apes. Then instantly, it got a major grip on the scientific community, and then it filtered into the school systems. Then you're starting to see the school textbooks, and believe it or not, the school textbooks from the beginning of this country, the 10 Commandments are in there, God created the heaven and the earth and all that. The parts of the Bible were in the textbooks, and they actually taught the Bible in public schools. So you start to see less of that, more evolution, less of that, and over time, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and that was completely done with the Bible stuff. Pushing evolution as a scientific fact when Kleiser says it's theory. I guess how the word theory means, we don't know. But just when it comes to evolution, that's the only time it's a fact. That's according to them. It's weird, right? So that's what happened. So what it did is flushed out the biblical stuff to dumb down the education system. And of course, the Rockefeller Foundation, they're the ones who fund the whole public education. They jumped on board with the Jesuits to completely flush out, because anything to do biblically with the stuff, because it's all biblical. It really is. And so they wanted to dumb down the education system. Then they pushed the same people, the same groups. They pushed the dispensationalism in the churches to completely dumb down the churches. The people, I got grace, I can sin. The 10 Commandments are no longer valid. The laws, I don't have to obey them. says no such thing in the Bible. So we did a lot of shows on that. But they systematically, the Jesuits, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rothschild, and all them, which is all the same people from the same tree of evil. They systematically dumb down the churches, the education system, the scientific community. And I'll tell you about scientists, right? Scientists will only agree with the people who fund them. Always keep that in mind. So when you see those wackos on the History Channel, the guy with the weird hair, Neil deGrasse Tyson, all these so-called famous scientists, right? Bill Nye, the fake science guy. Yeah, they only agree with the people who fund them. That's all. And if you talk to real scientists, they completely disagree with those people. Because the evolution is fake. It's a bad religion. That's what it is. It's nothing to do with science. Science, if you look at the definition, we did it many times, go for yourself. Science is something you could observe and demonstrate. You could observe this. You could observe these things. You could find them all over the country, all over the world. You could demonstrate it by showing the actual corpse. Notice how you can't do that with evolution? Please, show me somewhere where there's a half man, half ape. Show me the transitions, yeah. So where they walking around, right? Yeah. I don't see half man, half ape walking around. And that's the dumbness of these evolutionists. You could actually find proof. This is all in history. This is all in newspapers and everything else. This is something you could observe and demonstrate. A million times over. You can't do that with evolution. So what was the motive of all this? To take God out of the equation. Out of the schools, out of the science room, even out of the media. So they told us, the mainstream media, to shut up about this stuff. That's why in about the mid-1900s, all newspapers in this country stopped covering this stuff. And this is on record of all these little sites, like where they found the remains. And we could show the archives and everything. And I know it's going to sound ridiculous, but you could go look it up for yourself. Me and Brian's done a lot of shows on this stuff. Yeah, in New Mexico, they found a cave of these about 200 of them, bones fully intact, not a little fragments of bone, fully intact. And that guy I told you about on the History Channel, I debated. He started laughing. He's like, ho, 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 ho. He goes, dad, ho, ho, ho. He's like laughing and with tears because he thinks, to try to belittle me, right? And he had on his desk, right, he had this little megalithon bone. He goes, those little bones you fired, ha, ha, ha. It's a megalithon bone. Right? Oh, man, this was great. This is a megalithon bone. It's not, it's like, well, first of all, you just put your foot in your mouth, buddy. Because then all three of them are just cocky, They laugh because they got all the scientific terms, and I couldn't even pronounce it in my life right. I'm like, you guys just put your foot in your mouth. Really? Oh, how did I do that? Well, listen to this. Because first of all, the remains they found weren't just little bones; they were full skeletons. Number two, you just really put your foot in your mouth because a little while ago you just got done telling me that the Great Flood was false. It was a hoax. So how the hell would megalithon bones, which is an ocean creature, how would they end up in the middle of the country? That was like the mic drop. And of course they couldn't answer that. Then they started making jokes and attacking me personally to try to divert from the subject. Then they said, oh, it was, it's not true. And I whipped out that stack of newspapers and I told them where they could go find the stuff. And yeah. We got to go and you're a fool. And they started making fun of me with other kids. Yeah. And yeah. So you just told me right out before that the flood was fake, right? So how would megalithon bones end up in the middle of the country? These people, they're crazy. They really are. And they'll use those scientific terms that you can't pronounce to save your life, right? To try to make themselves elevated, educated more than you. Yeah, they're educated in their system and lies, but in reality, they're not. So what's this all got to do with each other? And look, for this one here, Monster Skulls and Bones, this is Cartersville, Georgia. On April 4th, the water was receded from the Tulin Mound Field and left uncovered areas of skulls and bones. Now, some of these are gigantic. if the whole frame was proportionate to 2 thigh bones that were found, must have been stood about 14 feet high. And some of these bones were buried in small vaults built of stones. And those are the mounds we talk about all the time. You drive by them. It's a Kentucky's loaded when we got some in Rhode Island. And by the way, if you try to dig one of those up, and you get caught, you get arrested. Yeah, that's why they're preserved by the historical societies and the Smithsonian, because they don't want you digging those up. Because if you dig those up, you're going to find things like this. Massive skeletons. Massive skulls. Most of them have 2 rows of teeth. 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes. Not all of them did, but most of them did. And this picture here, right? There are Photoshop pictures like that, yes. But these are real pictures. There are real pictures of these out there. And look, I know it looks and sounds ridiculous, but look, the size comparison. That ain't no joke. Imagine that thing when it was, you stand a skeleton up, right? Then you add the flesh and stuff, which is probably another foot or 2 of height. And we go a bit to the Bible too, man. David and Goliath. Goliath wasn't just this little, a couple feet more than David. These things were massive. His and his brothers. The Battle of Gad. It goes on with that, right? And again, when they so-called find dinosaur bones, they only found fragments. When they find these, they're full skeletons. Most of them are in tombs and everything else. Giant skeleton found. I don't know if I could even see that. But yeah, and this is not fake stuff, guys. Again, and I challenge you, go to the newspaper archives. I think it's 49 cents or $1, whatever. If you go subscribe to New York Times, you could actually search through the archives. Or go down to the newspaper in your area if you got an old newspaper. Like here in Rhode Island, we have the Providence Journal. They go back way back. And they covered a lot of stuff here in Rhode Island that they found. And you go into the archives, and years ago, you had to go to the newspaper place or the library, and you had to use those films to search through the archives. It's pretty cool. I think a lot of libraries still got those. But I would check your local library if they have that. But yeah, these were found all over the place. And see the height comparison from a normal person to that? That's not a joke. This was in the New York Journal. Before the mainstream media got corrupt. And when we get to the Indian stuff too, the Native Americans, I'm Native American on my mother's side, and so all the tribes will tell you, the tribe historians, that they had a problem with what they called the star people. And when they went how, like, you see that in the movies, and they go how, it's not saying hi, that's Hollywood thing. What they were doing is communicating. So basically they see a stranger, they would do this, and they would count their fingers or their toes. And if they had 6 fingers, they would they would try to kill it, you know what I mean? Because they had a bad problem with this. And these things had a lot of interference here in the Revolution too. This is something that's not talked about in the school books. And we got proof right here in the state of Rhode Island with that. Before the Revolution, during the King Philip War. So this stuff is very, very real. So right here in Rhode Island, right, this is 9 Men's Misery. This is during, the King Philip War. This is pre-Revolution. This is when the English were expanding throughout the continent here, the Northeast. And you had the 4 major tribes here in New England. So you have the Wampanoag tribe, which I belong to, which is most of the East Coast from I think central Rhode Island all the way up into Canada. Then you have the Wampanoag, the Wampanoags there, the Narragansetts, the Pequots, and the Nimchuk. What's it? There's 4 different tribes. But anyway, they battled with the English, and it was the Pequots who ended up selling their own people out to help the English overthrow the Indians. You know what I mean? So, and I'm Indian, so I can say Indian. If you find offensive to that, too bad. I hate when people say, "Oh, it's offensive to say Indian." No, it's not. I don't find no offense at all. So anyway, one of the right here where I actually grew up, Cumberland, Rhode Island, Central Falls, Rhode Island. Right where I grew up is this giant tower that they built on this massive rock. It's like a little mountain. They built a clock tower on it in Central Falls, Rhode Island. And I always explored the place and everything else. And there was these little markers over there and everything. So I guess what happened was when the King Philip War, King Philip now is my relative. The guy King Philip, his name was Grand Sachem Metacom. He was the Grand Chief of the Wampanoag tribe because the Wampanoag was so big they had sub-chiefs and the major chief. My great ancestor, who is the head honcho, the president, whatever. So the English called him King Philip. He was named Sachem Metacomet, Chief Metacomet. So he led the rebellion against the English because the English were trying to, take over the stuff. Now, mind you, the Indians gave them land to help them out. Then, in turn, the king wasn't good enough. They wanted weapons confiscation, all this stuff, even on Indian territory, and that's what caused the war. So anyway, right where I lived, and let me see if I get a picture of this here, because it's a fascinating story. It has a lot to do with what we're talking about. Central Falls, all right. So this giant rock here, right? There was before this tower was built. This is where I grew up here, went to school and everything else, right? So this, like little mountain, if you will, whatever the case, right? Before this clock tower was built, before even Rhode Island came along or the country came along, right? This was a major Wampanoag area, especially this area, because the Indians always took sacred to high elevations, anything high elevation. So on this site here, what happened was when the King Philip War started, Metacomet was on a run from the British. So the British literally went to certain places that him and his family were, and they killed everybody. They slaughtered, massacred several Indian families right on that rock. So, out of retaliation, this monument in Cumberland, Rhode Island, right, they memorialized the British. Because what happened was, which they shouldn't, because before that, this British troop here, the little squad, they killed innocent kids and elderly right here. So, out of retaliation, a lot of the Indians, they ambushed that squad right here in Cumberland, Rhode Island. But the leader of this, right, the leader of that squad was called Benjamin Buckland. That was his name, right? So now if you look, right, they posted a Providence Journal article. This is Wednesday, January 20th of 1886. Let me see if I can blow this up so you can read it. I guess not. It says, a strange incident occurred in relation to the nine men's grave. The nine men's misery is basically the 9 soldiers that were ambushed by the Indians and slaughtered out of retaliation from what they did to their families, right? They don't put that on the tomb, though, right? So, it's crazy. They glorify the British. But the strange incident occurred in relation to the nine men's misery grave. It was either during or shortly after the Revolution War, which was technically the King Philip War before that. So, and some Providence gentleman said Dr. Bowen went up to the place and opened up the grave. So they opened this grave up, right? And they already sketched 3 of the skeletons upon the ground, and they were discovered. And when the Cumberland people, that's the city there, found out what was going on a hue, the cry being raised, so people were just ticked off that they were digging the stuff up. And the farmers assembled from all regions around, and searchings of the robbery, I'll explain this in a minute, guys, I'll just read it here, of the robbery was compelled by dismemberment being regarded as a first-class outrage. So the public was like, hey, why are you guys around here digging stuff up? They were just outraged because it was farmland at the time, and this area was owned by monks and everything, too. Oh, that was later on. I'm sorry, I'll get to that later. But it's not said whether there was... I'm just going to skip ahead. So anyway, one fact settled me by the December... it's hard to read this, I'm sorry. So they dug up the bones, right? Plain and simple. And so they said one skeleton dug up was extraordinary size, and by the fact that it's having double sets of teeth. So a massive skull of extraordinary size was found with 2 rows of teeth. It was recognized of Benjamin Buckland of Rehoboth, Mass. It is assured that this men were from other colonies of Providence. So I know it's old. That's 18-something, so it's hard to read what they wrote. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the remarkable skull of Benjamin Buckland was given to the Rhode Island. There it is, right here, right? You'll find the same story all over the country. The remarkable skull of Benjamin Buckland was given to the Rhode Island Historical Society during the 19th century for preservation, but unfortunately, the society, quote unquote, lost the skull sometime in the 20th century. Then they got articles they had to post them. But this is one of many, guys, right? And again, 2 rows of teeth. And they should have noted the fingers too. I bet he had 6 fingers on each hand. So you might be asking yourself right this time, what does this got to do with anything, Dan? What's this got to do with polydactyly? What's this got to do with people walking around with 6 fingers? Because it has a lot to do with that. So beyond that little medical terminology for this here to try to dismiss, don't worry about that spiritual stuff. Don't worry about any of that. The scientific community and the medical community know better than you. No, they don't. So where does this stuff come from? So this is a genetic alteration. Now we'll get into the spiritual stuff about this stuff here. So, but anyway, before we do that, there's an article here, and I'm not at all promoting this article. I'm not. Understand this. I think this is from New Ages and occultists who made this. The spiritual meanings of having 6 fingers. And tell us. So this is what they think, right? This is what the occult think. 10 spiritual meanings of having 6 fingers and toes, right? And people saying, have you ever wondered about the spiritual significance of having 6 fingers and toes? The unique physical trait has been a subject of fascination throughout history. Oh, yeah. So that means it's been throughout history. With connections to draw astrological, biblical, and cultural beliefs. So this ought to be a dandy, right? So spiritual meanings of having 6 fingers and toes, and where is it? Number 1, enhance intuition and psychic abilities. So they say having this is going to increase your psychic abilities, which you don't have psychic abilities. It's demonic stuff. So in spiritual traditions, having 6 fingers is believed to be a sign of heightened intuition and psychic abilities. As seen as a gift to allow individuals to tap into the higher realms of consciousness and connect with spiritual energies more profound. Wait, that's New Age garbage, guys. Anytime you hear of realms of consciousness and spiritual energies, that is New Age garbage. But this is what they believe, right? And I'm not gonna go through all of them, but connection to ancient mysteries. So, which it is connected to ancient, it goes back to the Nephilim. And we're going to get back to where this started from. These 6-fingered individuals are thought to have special connection to ancient civilizations and spiritual lineages. That revered to the number 6 as a symbol of harmony, balance, and divine order. See, they throw the numerology, gematria in there and everything too, right? Yeah. And you can read this article, guys, and I always suggest, guys, when you look at the stuff, don't take it as gospel. And then what they'll do is they'll throw some biblical stuff in there too. And half the time when they do, they just take verses out of context. So just want to point that out. So let me get past that here. And it was number 3, balance and harmony. Number 4 is divine protection. In certain spiritual traditions, the presence of 6 fingers is believed to be a sign of divine protection. It is thought that the individuals that with the trait are blessed and shielded from negative energies, harmful influences, and various forms of harm or misfortune. Well, guess what? I don't have 6 fingers, right? And I got that spiritual protection. It's called the Holy Spirit. It's the blood of Jesus Christ. Yeah. So for you New Agers out there, we don't need 6 fingers to have divine protection. Just want to point that out there. The blood of Jesus Christ does better. So number 5, ancestral connection. So basically ancestors and all that stuff. It's the presence of 6 fingers regarded to as a sign of strong connections to your ancestors. Once again, which is New Age garbage. And there's nothing new about New Age. It's just ancient philosophies. It's occultism. It is believed that these individuals carry the wisdom, guidance, and blessings of their lineage. No, that's called genetics. You inherit, you literally do. You inherit genetics from your ancestors and knowledge. You do. Because if you look at an animal, the same thing too. When an animal is born, like a dog, right? Does anybody teach that dog what to eat? How to clean itself and all that stuff? No. It's just hereditary knowledge that's passed down through the genes. It's nothing to do with spirits or anything like that. Healing abilities. In some spiritual traditions, the presence of 6 fingers associated with the ability to heal others. Which is where I know where they're going down the path with Reiki and all that, which is spiritual healing. It's New Age garbage. Yeah. Stay away from that. So I'm just showing you what they believe. And enhanced creativity and what else? Yeah. Spiritual awakening. The presence of six fingers sometimes viewed as a sign of profound spiritual awakening at a higher level of consciousness. Pure, 100% unadulterated, New Age garbage. Symbol of uniqueness, and yeah, it's crazy, right? With the last one, signs of spiritual leadership. Oh, because having six fingers is going to make you a spiritual leader? And you could possess deep understanding, profound mysteries of the universe. Well, guess what? I don't need six fingers to do that. It's right there. Right in the Bible. I can just read the Bible and God tells us what everything is, right? What the universe is. Yeah, I don't need to have six fingers for that. Unreal, isn't it? So where does this all come from? People ask, where does this all come? Where did it all start? How is people being born with six fingers? We getting as actors? And it's kind of funny too. A lot of these people have prominent positions of power, right? Or a fame or fortune or something like that. A lot of these people do, not all of them, but a lot of them do. And there's a reason why. Because a lot of these things, they're genetically from the Nephilim. And I'm going to show you what the Nephilim are. And if you don't know already, and you guys already know, it's probably going to be reciting the same stuff I talk about all the time. So 2 Samuel 21:20, right? So this goes back, we showed you the ancient cultures, right? Now let's see what the Bible has to say about this. And we're going to get to the origins of how people are being born with six fingers and six toes, right? So 2 Samuel 21:20 says, and there was yet a battle in Gath, where a man of great stature, this is a giant, had on every hand six fingers and on every foot 6 toes, 42 in number, and he also born to the giant. So you got this creature that's born from a giant. It was a massive stature person. 6 fingers and 6 toes. And you can look at David and Goliath too. I forgot to pull that up. And what I forgot to pull up too is also Genesis 6. So we could get into that here in a second here. So we're going to show you ancient text, Enoch and all that stuff and what the Bible has to say. So, and again, this is a lot of people in the churches, they'll dismiss this. It's like, oh, no, it's not the sons of the fallen angels. Yeah, that's what they'll say, right? So this is where this stuff comes from. This is all back in the ancient days, and this is why all the ancient cultures have records of this happening. So, and if you know Greek mythology, right, remember it for a minute, because it's going to sound very familiar in a minute. Genesis 6, right? And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born unto them. This is after Adam and Eve started populating. The massive numbers of people growing. Remember, Adam lived for 900 years. He had many sons and many daughters. Imagine that. I don't know if people could even comprehend that. So basically, normally, right, we grow up, we have children, and we live to see our grandchildren, maybe our great-grandchildren. Adam seen his great, 5th, 6th, 7th generations being born while he was still alive. And he was probably still pumping out kids. Put that into perspective. So that people say, how could the world populate so fast with just 2 people? Well, if you do the math on that, very, very quick. And granted, for a while, in the first 100 years, it's going to be a little slow. But once it populated, it just doubles and doubles and doubles. And within 500 years, you got probably 1 million people. So anyway, when the earth was being multiplied, right, and the sons of God, and no, this ain't the people of Seth, these are the fallen angels, saw the daughters of men that they were fair, which are beautiful. And they took them as wives as which they chose, right? And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. And yet his days will be 120 years. So a lot of people speculate that that God limited mankind to live no more than 120 years. Which I think it was David that pointed out. I think this is where he's one from this point in time. He was given a timeline that he's going to destroy the world in 120 years. Because it took Noah how long to build the ark? Yeah. So he gave this at this point that God was talking, God's talking to the angels, and it's like, yeah, we need to do something about this. And the book of Enoch and all that gets into more detail that this was going on, right? That his fallen angels had children with the daughters of men, right? And there were giants in the earth in those days. And I'm not talking about 6 foot, 7 foot. Again, this goes back up to 30, 40 feet people tall and all that stuff. And also after that. So before, there was giants in the earth in the flood, and also after that. Some survived it. And when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, had sex with them, and came to them, they bore children to them, and the same became mighty men, which old men of renown. So giants, and if they were not giant, they had super abilities, and that's where, again, you jump into the Greek mythology and all that stuff. And again, it's not mythology. That, Hercules, people had superhuman strength and whatever the case. These were real. These were offspring of the fallen angels. And God saw the wickedness of men, and it was great in the earth, and that every imagination of their heart was only evil continually. And God repented that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man from whom I created off the face of the earth, both man and beast and creeping thing and fowls in the air, for I repent in me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man. Now, understand this. Noah was the just man, like he loved God, he was good, and perfect in his generations. He's not saying Noah himself was perfect. His generations. That's your progeny. That's your bloodline. And Noah walked with God. So what does that mean? Your genetic code, your DNA, was perfect from the line of Seth, and from Adam to Seth, and so on. Because what happened here, all right, there's something that happened here, which we just read, that the fallen angels had sex with the woman on the earth, bore them children, completely corrupted the human bloodline. And then we did a show, I think it's called something the matter of the plan of Simjiza, which was the head fallen angel that led this to have sex with the woman. They swore a pact and an oath of mutual implications. So I think it was a way to shut off and cut off that bloodline so Jesus could never be born and from a host that's pure bloodline. We did a whole show on that. It was a great show. Go check it out. And so they attempted, because they knew from Satan knew from the Garden of Eden that the coming of the Messiah was coming. It's talked about right in Genesis, right? They knew about the coming of the Antichrist. So what happened? Satan and Samziza attempted to cut off that bloodline. So there would be never a perfect host enough for Jesus to come into the flesh. So that's just one reason. But they did lust after the daughters, and they swore an oath. They knew darn well what they were doing, because they swore an oath on it. And they said, we're going to suffer from this. They knew they were going to suffer from this. They knew they were going to get penalized from this, and they did it anyway. So, and again, Noah was perfect in his generations, his genetic code, his genome. Him and his family were one of the only families that were not corrupted. And notice how it talked about the beasts in the earth that God wanted to destroy, all the animals and all that, most of them, because they were corrupted too. So Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was also corrupt before God. The earth was filled with violence. And when he says about corrupt, guys, the earth was corrupt, it's not talk about just bad stuff. Genetically corrupt. Because these things mingled with the plants and the animals. It was like a genetic mess. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. All flesh had corrupted his way on the earth. All flesh. That's animals, birds, insects, fish, because you don't understand what was going on, right? God made everything perfectly. And a lot of people assume, like the dinosaurs and all that, there were creatures created that were not part of God's creation. And God only made the certain ones survive. He brought them on the ark to survive because there was a lot of creatures on this earth that were not God's creation. They were genetically created by the fallen angels. Because, again, all flesh on the earth was corrupt. Birds, everything. It says right here. And God said to Noah, the end of flesh, all flesh, has come before me. For the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. And make the Enoch, which is, you talked about building the ark. And, all the dimensions of it. So, basically, Noah is 3 sons and their wives. So you got 4 couples that survived and then repopulated. But then again, too, there was still Nephilim on the earth after, because the Bible says before and after. So there was still that very small percentage, and they started gaining power again. And that's when Joshua later led his armies to kill off these Nephilim kingdoms. And then you got David and Goliath and all that stuff, the Battle of Gad. These things were Nephilim. So, but it was nothing like before the flood. So what happened was all this flesh was corrupted. So basically the animals that were brought to the Noah's Ark, and you could actually, if you go to the book of Joshua, I know it's not canonical, whatever the case, but if you go to the book of Joshua, it explains this in detail. How the animals surrounded the ark to protect it from the people trying to jump on it. And there was only certain select animals that get on the ark that were not genetically corrupt. So there's a lot of stuff that, the churches don't teach you. This is all ancient stuff. And it's simply amazing, it really is. So this is the origins of where these people came from. So basically, there's a remnant. That's why I put the remnant of the Nephilim. And no, you can see people being born once again. I have a friend that's 7'2", and another one's 7'3". You know what I mean? And I got 2 friends that are 7 feet. But if you look, China, they still got people growing 8, 19, 10 feet tall. It's rare, but it's still going on. But that was normal back then because they genetically created. So imagine how you say this. An angel would have sex with a human woman. Their offspring is a mix of both. And it's a genetic mess, right? So if they had an offspring with another person, it would look like a person. Now that's where the Neanderthal and the Homo sapien stuff comes from. Because it was the scientific community's way to try to describe these things that the Bible's already talked about. The different species of humans, yeah. Because it was genetically because of the fallen angels and the Nephilim. But they won't tell you that part. You know what I mean? So that's why they say, there's different species of humans. They lived millions of years ago, they didn't live hundreds of thousands of years ago. They didn't live millions of years ago. All that is a little fancy word to slap on there to tell you they're Nephilim. That's all that is. Homo sapiens or Neanderthals, whatever you want to call them, this is a fancy little word that they slap on to try to cover that up. That's all that is. And it's amazing, the scientific community does this all the time. They'll come up with this long word on the medical community, right? Long word you couldn't even pronounce to save your life or you spell it, right? And all it is to hide what the Bible's already told you. And look at weeks ago we did a show on, right? Scientists finally discovered an ocean under the earth that's more water, twice as much more water than the oceans on the earth, right? On the surface. We didn't need you guys to figure that out. We already knew that. Water's above the firmament, below the firmament. The Bible already told us this stuff. It's funny how science just catches up to the Bible just now, right? Catches up to the Bible, but then they'll still try to downplay it. They'll throw some terminology that you can't pronounce right, things like that, to just soft play it. Oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. And rip the spirituality out of it, right? So the Bible talks about this, and this is where these things came from. Now, if you go to Jude 2, Jude chapter 1, which is only one chapter, verse 7, it talks about, even in Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities about them, like manna, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. So I talked about Sodom and Gomorrah, and a lot of people don't understand too. Sodom and Gomorrah, there was a lot of homosexuality went on and all that stuff. We understand that. But a lot of these things, guys, were Nephilim. Again, not all Nephilim are giants. They're men of renown and whatever the case, abnormal, whatever the case, they're genetic offspring of these creatures and the fallen angels. And they were having sex, fornication, having sex with strange flesh. Strange flesh is something that's not the way God created us. And when you look at it, the Lord says we're created in their image. Who's they? The archangels, the echelon angels, we get the classes of angels we went over, right? And there's angels that have wings with all eyeballs. There's angels of all sorts, right? That have 2 heads of lions, whatever. But the archangels and regular, the head angels there, they look just like us, but they're bigger in stature. They're tall, like 10 feet tall, whatever the case. And they're huge, strong, and everything else. So when he said we created God, God said we created man in our own image. We were created after them, the image of them. That's why they have likeness of us. we have likeness to them. The way, we look and everything else. So Satan's offspring of it would be to defy God. God gives us 5 fingers. He gives you 6 fingers. And I'm not saying out there, if you are a person who has 6 fingers, guys, or 6 toes, and we know because it's genetically corrupted in you. However, do know this. Because, right now you're probably saying, oh man, I'm going to go to hell. I've got Nephilim bloodline. Doesn't matter your bloodline. You have a choice right now. If you follow Jesus Christ, you accept the blood of the Messiah, you got to understand that the whole salvation thing is to become born again. This here, right? This flesh, whatever. This is the spiritual born again. So you could have 6 fingers. Like you could have direct Nephilim bloodline. If you accept Jesus Christ, the spiritual blood of Jesus Christ absolves all that. You become a new creature. And I want to point out too, you are not a child of God unless you're a believer. When you're born, that's why it says children of God, right? The sons of God in Genesis. Was he talking about men? Us? No. You're not a son of God until you become a believer. When you become a believer, this is described by Paul and all of the New Testament. When you become a believer of Jesus Christ, right, you become an adopted child of God. Then you are a son or a daughter of God. Then you're grafted into God's spiritual Israel, not the nation of Israel over in the Middle East. God's spiritual Israel. You're grafted in. Then, okay, you're heir to the throne. You're heir to the kingdom. You have inheritance to the kingdom of God. And on top of it, you're a saint. You don't need the Catholic Church to deem you as a saint. That's the glory of becoming and again, if you're a Nephilim bloodline or you think you're, because of, I had family who were witches, my mother's side, legit witches from Salem and everything else. And plus with the Indian stuff, with the voodoo and all that goes on with the Indian tribes. Yeah, I have those generational things, but when I become born again, none of that matters no more. So no matter what your genetic is, what your bloodline is, what your ancestors are, your ancestor could be Cain. It could be Satan himself, whatever, for example, you know what I mean? But it doesn't matter. If you believe in Jesus Christ, you are born again. You're a new creation. But this is going on, guys. This is all where this comes from. And it's amazing, it really is. And then, these things are coming back, by the way, because the Bible says men's heart's going to fail them for the things that come out of the earth. And we talk about Revelation 9, about the 200 million come from the bottomless pit. And no, it's not China, it's not Russia. These are Nephilim type creatures, they're spiritual creatures. And we're not done yet. We're going to get to more ancient text here. Again, if you're just tuning in, people call this polydactyly because, again, it's a medical term to just dismiss anything to do with the Bible. Right? So, and I always wanted to point this out before you get to the scripture, right? I forgot to bring this up. This movie, 11/11/11, right? And if you remember, it's November 11th of 2011. Actually, my son, the scary part is my son was supposed to be born on a date. His projected date was 11/11/11. And so she was ready, my wife was ready to go. And the doctor office said, if we induce her, we could do a C-section. And it was November 4th. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Because when I heard that, I'm like, because I already seen this movie ahead of time. And I know it's a movie, whatever the case, but people in the occult take things to extreme. And there's a lot of significance with that. So when I see this movie, I'm like, oh boy. Not saying my son's going to be an antichrist or anything like that. But I don't know if you all are aware of this. I don't know, I should say this on YouTube because... when you're born, right, they without your knowledge, they take the baby's heel and they use a lancet and prick the heel, and they dab a card with their blood, the DNA samples, right, and nobody knows where it is, who did it, nothing. It's like since 1975, I believe they've been doing this because they're looking for a genetic, they're looking for a certain bloodline that could play relevance to this. I don't know. So. This movie was about a kid who was born on 11/11/11. He's the Antichrist. So within the movie, this guy, he started seeing strange things after his son was born. He's the father of the would-be Antichrist, right? So in the movie, he started seeing these strange things, demons scratching the wall. And now if you take a little note, right, look how many scratches are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 scratches means 6 fingers, right? And anytime you see people who get scratched by demons, A lot of times it's 6 fingers. Now, if you want to know what demons are, and all this has got to do with anything, right? And we'll skip ahead to there. So these are what demons are. If you go to 1 Enoch chapter 15, verse 6. Do I got Enoch 6 in there too? So anyway, yeah, okay. So now the giants who are produced from the spirits of flesh, right? These are the giants who were born from the daughters of man from the fallen angels, right? Shall be called evil spirits, demons, on the earth, and shall live on the earth, and evil spirits have come out of the bodies because they are born from men and from the holy watchers, which is the fallen angels. Their beginning is at the primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on the earth from the evil ones. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling, but as the spirits of the earth, which were born on earth, shall be their dwelling. So basically what they're saying is, like a long story short, that when the giants were killed, or the men of renown, the children of the fallen angels, their spirits, instead of going to paradise or hell, or heaven, whatever the case, right, they didn't go anywhere. Because they were born in the earth, and the thing is, this was a punishment to them. Now, I think I said in the past, too, I want to correct myself, too, by the way, because it says here, they take no food, and they do not hunger or thirst. And I misinterpreted that before. I said they thirst and they hunger in the spirit. They don't. And I apologize about that. But anyway, these are the spirits of these angels, right? I'm sorry, the spirits of the Nephilim. Now, a lot of ministries will go around telling you that the demons are the fallen angels. No, they're not fallen angels. Demons and fallen angels are completely two different things. Demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Now, to prove that, when you talk about in Luke, I think in Matthew, when Jesus confronted Legion, right? Legion, which means many in one, a legion of demons in that one person. Right away, when they seen Jesus, right, they went running toward Jesus, and then when they realized it was Jesus, they fell down, and he fell down on his knees in fright in front of Jesus, begging and pleading. These are demons. These are thousands of demons all in one person, begging and pleading. Are you here? What do you say? Are you here to send us away before our time? What does that mean? Well, if you go to the big book of Enoch, you know exactly what that means. Because these demons, right, when they were killed off, when they were in the body, they were killed off, they became disembodied spirits, known as demons. So they're cursed to roam the earth until Judgment Day. Now, Judgment Day, they're going to be thrown into the lake of fire with the fallen angels of Satan and all the wicked, right? They don't go to hell. They go straight to the lake of fire. So when Jesus confronted them, they were afraid. They were like, oh my God, Jesus, please don't send us away before our time. They addressed him as Lord. They were definitely afraid of Jesus. So now when they asked Jesus, please, Lord, let us go into the swine, the pigs, right? Jesus could have cast them to hell because they were afraid that Jesus was going to cast them to hell with like a fire, whatever it is. Because they were told from the beginning that they were going to be here, roam the earth until Judgment Day. So they have some time. They were afraid that Jesus was going to cast them away before their time. So they beg and plead Jesus, and Jesus said, all right, go ahead, and live in the promise that the Father made with them. So they went into the swine, and when they possessed the pig, they ran, because it's an unclean animal. There's a significance with that. You'll never see them possess a clean animal. That's another show altogether. But they ran and drowned themselves off the cliff. And when they killed, they had to be in a body to kill himself to go back as a Roman spirit. So that proves, Enoch proves this. That's what they are. These are what demons are. They're not fallen angels. They're disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Now, if you read Enoch chapter 6, right, it goes verbatim with Genesis 6. The book of Joshua, chapter 4. And I can read Enoch 6 if you want. But again, if you read Enoch 6 and Genesis 6, it's word for word just about. Verbatim of everything I just told you, so we could save the time of me repeat myself. About giants roaming the earth and all that stuff. They were born of the fallen ones. And Joshua chapter 4 says, and that judges and rulers went to the daughters of men. These talk about the fallen ones, the chief 200. And took their wives by force from their husbands, according to their choice. So these fallen angels literally took women, if they were married or not, they didn't care. whoever they thought, each one thought was attractive. And the sons of men, now, if you want to point that out too, I want real quick here. When people say the cursed sons of Seth, they were not fallen angels. If you notice, the scripture points out the sons of man and the sons of God. Yeah, there's an interchangeable there. The sons of man is from Adam. I'm a son of man, you're a son of man, but we're spiritually adopted as a son of God now. But back then, talk about, they distinctively show sons of man and sons of God. Sons of God are the fallen angels. Just want to point that out. And then, they took the sons, their choice, and the sons of man, whose days took from cattle of the earth and the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals in one species and with others. So this is, if you look in, there's a lot of context in here. Number one, it's showing you what the fallen angels had sex with the woman here, had children with them. Number two, it's shown, because remember the Bible in Genesis 6, all flesh was corrupt. It's saying how it was right here. The fallen angels taught men how to genetically splice animals to create different offsprings and species. So if you think the grand singular technology is all new today, guys, yeah, they were doing that thousands of years ago. They were genetically creating offsprings and different creatures back then. They had the technology to do that. Far more advanced than we have today. And I know a lot of people are not going to believe that, but you know what? Your opinion's irrelevant. Because ancient history proves it still. In other words, it was to provoke the Lord. And God saw the whole earth was corrupt. For all flesh had been corrupt in its ways upon the earth, and all men and the animals. And is that not verbatim for Genesis 6? And people bash, I don't want to hear it because it's not canonical. It doesn't have to be canonical. It's backing up Genesis 6. It's backing up ancient history. In the book of Jubilees, chapter 7, 21, right? I'm going to try to read this here because it's small on my screen. For owning these three things came from the flood upon the earth, namely owning the fornication wherein the watchers, angels having sex against the law, and the ordinances went whoring after the daughters of men, and took themselves wives as which they please. So basically violating God's ordinances, because God said in ordinances that they are not allowed to touch the woman at all. Intervene genetically, don't touch these women. And I know pastors say, angels can't have sex. No, angels can't have sex in heaven. When you're in heaven, you don't have those feelings. You don't have temptations like that. When they're in the heavenly abode, they didn't have those. When they came here, they had those. Big difference from being in the different realms, yeah. So it's saying right here, the same thing Genesis 6 says, right? And they chose and made the beginning of uncleanness. And they begot sons, the Nephilim, and they are all unlike and devour one another, and a giant slew the Nephilim. And basically what's saying here, I'll narrate it because it's hard to read here. They sinned against each other, and all fled. These Nephilim were literally having sex with anything that walked, animals, beasts, whatever the case. They would they would slaughter themselves. They would slaughter humans, eating humans. That's why you'll see this in a lot of ancient cultures too. And in the Middle East, people report the stuff still going on. And these things were nasty. That's why God destroyed the earth. Because again, the plants genetically got corrupted, the humans, and also the animals. That's why God says, I'm done. I'm going to reset everything. And he chose specific clean animals, and unclean them, but the ones that were not corrupt genetically to go on the ark. Because they were literally genetically creating all different, like we talked about too, we believe some of the dinosaurs were not God's creation. And we believe there's a lot of animals on this earth that were not part of God's creation. They were created from, genetically corrupted from, imagine if you will, right? Them genetically altering the sperm and all that for a horse, right? So the horse gives birth to this brand new species that's completely genetically corrupted from its own genetic code, right? Then it has sex with something else, and you get the point, right? And it was humans having bestiality and all that. That had a lot to do with it, too. And it was all genetically corrupted, and it literally corrupted all the DNA on the earth. So in today's world, This filtered through that. Yeah, sure, the Noah's family was perfect in the genetic code, right? But some of the Nephilim survived that flood. And there's still the remnant of them, which is the genetics. Any of us could have that. We don't know. But again, if you're saved through the blood of Christ, you don't have to worry about that. Amen. So that's why people are being born like this. There's people being born with 3 breasts. I mean, I know that movie Total Recall is funny, Arnold Schwarzenegger, but yeah, there's people born with these different abnormalities. Yeah, and 6 fingers and all that. It's not just polydactyly, whatever it's called. This is from your genetic code. You're inheriting that genetics from your bloodline. So I got genetics in me from my father, grandfather, great-grandfather, all the way back to God knows what. So do you, so do everybody else. You genetically inherit some of the traits and stuff from your ancestors. So right here, it's talk about how they sinned against the birds and the animals and everything else, right? And so the Nephilim biblical giants, right? The Nephilim are described as angelic hybrids that are the result of procreation of human females and the fallen angels. They are described in the book of Enoch as a race of giants, which, by the way, every ancient culture backs us up. So if you don't like the book of Enoch, whatever, that's your choice. But the book of Enoch is verbatim with the Bible, and every ancient culture says the same thing. They're a race of giants who did great acts of evil, existing before and after the flood. Existing before and after the flood. These giants are also found in many ancient cultures through the writings, sculptures, and paintings. Bones and remains have been found worldwide. That's on record. We just showed you that. However, they are kept hidden from the public eye and are taken to elite bunkers and secluded Smithsonian facilities. And we just showed you that. And there was actually articles out there. Let me see if that still exists, because they scrubbed that too. The Smithsonian being under fire for hiding these bones. Let me see if the yeah, they got a lot of heat from that. See right here, well, now AI is saying, in 2022, a social media post claimed that Smithsonian Institute destroyed thousands of human giant skeletons in the early 1900s and covered up the evidence. And it says now, the post included a fake headline, digitally altered, of a giant skull. However, the Smithsonian Institute has denied the claim, which originated in satire websites and all that. So they're saying here, AI and which is from the mainstream media, Reuters, Political Fact, AMP News, fact checkers, right? Look, this is so funny, right? They're saying this is fake. But again, if you go back to their own articles, USA Today, all that, their own archives, admitting that these things were found. But yeah, they're saying that it was all fake. And they know most people don't know any better. Somebody looked this up. Oh, it's all fake. It's all fake. It's only polyester, whatever, whatever it's called. And again, we showed you the Protestant Journal and all that they went to the Historical Society. In some places, you see find other articles that say the Smithsonian that took the evidence. Of course, they're going to deny the claim, because there were FOIA requests filed to get these evidence, and they all said they were lost, stolen, and damaged. And of course, look, the Reuters, the very people who lie to you every day, the so-called fact checkers, right? They're the ones who lie to you every day, by the way. Political Fact, oh yeah, there's nothing fact about you, Political Fact. Snopes are dopes. Yeah. But there were articles everywhere, guys. And I remember that when I was doing a news show, we had scores of articles from different publications. I think the UK articles and all that stuff came out too, and it completely scrubbed it off the internet. And now it's a fake. But yeah, they put their foot in the mouth when they show the archives. Go figure, right? It's funny when they do that. It really is. So back to the scriptures here. Enoch, right? And we just showed you that there. So you got Jubilees, Enoch, Joshua, and Enoch's chock full. And also, too, guys, if you go to Jasher, when it talks about Nimrod, right? See, a lot of things with Nimrod, right? He was a Gibberine. Now, today, when people have 6 fingers and all that, I think they might be considered like of a Gibberine. A Gibberine has Nephilim traits, but they're not Nephilim. You know what I'm saying? So Nimrod was born, was his father Shem, whatever? I apologize, I forgot his father's name, but he was from the bloodline all the way back to Noah. You know what I mean? His bloodline is fine. But something happened in his life that it genetically changed him. A Gilberine has traits of a Nephilim, but they're not Nephilim. Now, Nephilim will have traits of a Gilberine, but they're not Gilberine. You know what I mean? So a Gilberine is like, because it talks about Nimrod, he became a mighty man in the earth in those days. And at first he was, he obeyed God and all that stuff, but he became corrupt. Genetically and personally too. He became corrupt and he became a giant. Strong and everything else. So something happened, and I think when the Bible talks about blood, I wanted to bring this up last week too, about the blood, and it is very specific when the Bible talks about blood. Animal blood, you're not supposed to even touch it. And the meat is not supposed to be heavy, rare. People like the steaks that are barely cooked with the blood dripping out. You're not supposed to do that. And ingesting blood of any kind, because there's a very important spiritual ramification that comes along with that. Why do you think vampirism and all that? I'm not saying there's people out there flying around as a bat, but there is real vampirism. Why do you think it's important with the blood? Blood, and the rituals, blood in this, blood in that. Remember the movie Indiana Jones, and they were showing you one of those satanic rituals that to transform Indiana Jones into one of them, they made him drink blood. This is sacrificial blood, and it completely transformed him, right? So in the real world, that goes on in the occult. When people in these cults, they practice and they do these rituals, and they take sacrificial blood, and they ingest it. It literally changes them from inside. Sometimes genetically, but spiritually changes them. And that's why the Bible is very, very specific on blood. If you notice, when it shows you how to prepare food, it gives exact details and strict warnings about blood. Because there is spiritual ramifications going with the blood. And it makes sense too, right? Because Jesus, what? He saves with the blood. Satan's counterfeit, he's going to change you with the blood. See how that works? So you could be saved in the newborn creature with the blood of Christ, right? In the occult world, they're going to do the opposite. They're going to give you some sacrificial blood, demonically charged, to transform you into what God wanted you to be to one of them. And sometimes it might be physical, but all the time it's spiritual. There's spiritual ramifications with the blood. So because of the genetic code and DNA and all that, and that's why they have different blood types and all that. So that being said, people born with 6 fingers and all that stuff, they're the remnant, the genetic remnant of these Nephilim creatures. Back to the fallen angels. So that's where that comes from. And again, it just makes me sick. It really does that. The scientific community and all that, they'll try to pass it off as, oh, don't worry about any of that. That's just... this medical term here, we'll show you again. Polydactyly. They'll just dismiss it as that. They throw a medical term on something that's thousands, ancients years old. To just, passively dismiss it. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about all those hieroglyphics. Don't worry about all those biblical texts. Don't worry about the ancient cultures, stories and all that. Don't worry about the Native Americans run into these things too. Don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about those newspaper articles from hundreds of years ago. Don't worry about that. We know better, and we're smarter, bigger, stronger, faster than we ever were in history. When that's completely opposite from the truth. And it even said that even David himself, wasn't a giant. No one on them, they had great stature. They were bigger than us, stronger than us. The average person would make any professional athlete look silly today because of what we've been trained to believe. That granted, yes, we are bigger, stronger, faster than people in the 1800s and 1700s and stuff. There was a period of time when we were small people. I would be considered a giant back then. And it's, 16, 1700s. Because people were just so small framed and all that. But before that, people were like massive. And, the bones prove it. And there were people bigger than them called the giants. That's what it is, the remnant, guys. And if you're out there and you have abnormalities like that, don't stress over it. Or somebody does, don't stress over it, because you could be reborn with the blood of Christ. And guys, if you like the broadcast today, if you like to get a hold of me, my prayer request here, or just get a hold of me, truthradioshow@all.com. So you can get a hold of me there, and I'll just put in the comments too. I can get back to you too. And also, we got a PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and if you look in the chat room, we got a donation page. It's Ko-Fi. It's cool. You don't have to sign up for nothing. We've been using it for 3 years. And I just want to actually point this out for a minute too. I'm glad they brought this up. This site, Ko-Fi, is basically it's a donation site. So you basically donate what you want, and you pay whatever kind of card. You don't have to sign up for nothing, any of that stuff. Like you would do a PayPal and all that stuff, right? You just donate and pay like you would do anything else, right? And there was a feature on there, and I apologize that people were donating because somebody brought it to my attention that the amount was being displayed on the website. And I had no idea about this. So basically when somebody donate, it would show the person and the amount they donated in public, right? And so they were getting harassed by other people, because they seen the donation and all that stuff, so they were being harassed by them. So I end up going in there. I didn't know that was happening. I thought only I could see it. So I went in there, changed the features, and basically it just shows you the person, like your screen name now, not your full name, that donated, and doesn't show how much. So it keeps it secret. So I apologize about that, guys. And I know most of y'all that do support us here that have been using that website. So I did fix it, guys, and I apologize about that. And so, yeah, if you want to make a donation, you can go to that website. Or if you do PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, we got it all. It's in the description. And I hate begging for money. I'm not, it's just like we have to pay for the studio rent and the streaming services and all the equipment and everything else. And but the best donation you can make beyond money, guys, the best donation is a spiritual donation, and that's your prayers for protection, your prayers for hedge of protection and all that stuff, and prayers for our safety here and all our safety in general, and also for the platforms and everything else. That's the more important thing. So we are going to go to our questions and answer shows on our Rumble channel. I'm going to post a link in a second here. And also, don't forget, tomorrow night, the Midnight Ride with David Carrico and John Pounders, 11 p.m. Eastern, on NYSC TV. Links also in the description as well. And type in NYS TV, and you'll find it on YouTube. So they always got an awesome live show. And it's pretty cool. So let me get that link for you in a second here. And so if you need any more clarification, guys, or whatever the case, you need to talk to them, call on the show. And even if you disagree with me, call on the show. Because this is something, I know there's a lot of ministries out there, and I don't mean to fight. Here's the thing, guys. I don't mean to fight with fellow Christians. I don't mean to argue with them. But if you're going out there telling people, taking the spirituality, which really rips me off to no end. If you're going out there telling people that the angels didn't have sex with the daughters of man, even though the Bible clarifies that, right? And if you tell people, the sky's not going to really rip open, the star's not going to really fall, it's all metaphorically and all that. Okay, first of all, you don't know what you're talking about. And that really burns my bridges. It really does. Because you're literally ripping the spirituality of the Bible. And that really irritates me no end. Because not only you got the Bible to prove that, right? Every ancient culture, all those ancient books we brought up, Enoch, Joshua, Jubilees, ancient cultures talking about stuff. Yeah, you ain't escaping it. The proof is in the pudding. Literally, in the earth, you could dig these things up. And I just posted the link in the chat room, guys. And that's the Rumble channel. So if you guys want to take a break, I'll be over there about 5 minutes or so. Go get something to eat, drink, whatever, stretch your legs. And the questions and answer show still continues on with this stuff. But yeah, if you want to call in with a testimony or talk about this, we invite you to call in or put your comments in the chat room. And if you're not signed up to Rumble, go do it now. We'll be there in a few minutes. It only literally takes like a minute. The same way you just sign up for YouTube, it's the same way you do at Rumble. It's really easy to do. You got an email address, choose a password, and boom, a screen name. You don't have to upload nothing just to get into the chat room so you can engage in the fellowship. Same thing you're doing here. So that's why we got a chat room here. I love the chat room and the features on YouTube because and Rumble too now because it allows you guys to fellowship with each other, get to know each other. And we've been doing this for 3 years now or so, and it's great. And everybody's getting to know each other. And some of these people I met, different meet and greets and all that stuff, and a lot of people I didn't. I can't wait to meet you all and all that stuff. And thank you to my moderators for moderating. I think it was just Harold tonight. But Harold, thank you for your awesome Bible verses, and that's why I made him a moderator too, because he's just nonstop with Bible verses, and which is is awesome to do, and he's a good person too. So that's why I made him a moderator. And also Valerie and Irish Bull. I'm sorry, Uncle Obvious and Irish Bull passed on. God rest his soul. We miss him daily, man. I tell you that. So he passed on my birthday 3 years ago, or 2-3 years ago. It's already, wow, it's crazy. But yeah, I'll thank you all, and Bill Connell, who other moderator, he's working tonight. So pretty cool stuff. Well, it's pretty cool that John Hall's back. That's awesome. John Hall, and if you listen, brother, we want you on that show, I think next week or the week after. Please, that'd be awesome. That show we got going on, which will be the final commandment, and we're going to eradicate dispensationalism. Not just kick it aside, we're going to eradicate it. Because that's another thing that burns me, man, when people say, oh, we don't have to obey the Ten Commandments. I had a pastor tell me that. Because I was telling I taught my son the Ten Commandments. Oh, there's really no need for, they don't matter no more. Like, what? Oh, well, what Bible are you reading? Jesus told us to keep God's commandments. And they don't want to hear that. That's the strong delusion right there. That I'm not going to go off on a tangent there. But that is the strong delusion that's put on this world right now. It's the people to truly believe, and no matter what verse you show them, the words from Jesus Christ 3 times in Revelation, several times in the New Testament, Jesus saying you need to keep God's commandments. That's the 10 Commandments. And they still can't see that. Because they want to live lawlessly, they want to live in sin, and make excuses for it. Because that pastor told them different, that dispensation pastor told them different. So yeah, we're supposed to avoid the fact that Jesus told us, Revelation 14:12, to be patient to the saints, to keep the commandments of God and the faith of Christ. And if you notice too, right, the Jewish churches tell you Jesus is not the Messiah, right? The modern day Christian churches tell you, yeah, Jesus is the Messiah, but the laws and commandments are passed away with. When the Bible says no such thing. Notice how they split the two? But yet, Jesus says to keep both. The faith in him and the commandments of God. What about that? And that's the difference, the split between the Jewish religions and the mainstream dumbed down Christian religions. They kick out the commandments and they kick out Christ. When Jesus says you need to keep both. Oh, I can't wait to rip into this one, man. Oh, man. Because it's going around again. People just, I'll be nice, I'll shut up. So questions and answers coming up in few minutes here on Rumble. Link, let me post it one more time. That's there in the chat room. And also, if you're not in the chat room, in the description of the video, you'll see questions and answers, that good stuff. So, I'm done here. So, I think it was a pretty good show here. Pretty good show. So, all right, guys, we'll see you in a few minutes. So, love you all. God bless. Shalom. And we'll see you on the other side. And remember, you are the resistance.